It's messy, it's cheesy, and at times it's very predictable, and I had a lot of fun. I had so much fun watching this film, and I hope you guys do too. Welcome, folks. I am Jabby Kaway, joined by ACHARA KIRK.
What's up?
We're talking about Black Adam. This is a non-spoiler initial thoughts and impressions review thing. Non-spoiler, I must emphasize that. And I must also emphasize that no matter what I say, please know I had fun watching this film. No matter what criticisms you might hear me or ACHARA and myself say. That's correct English. Black Adam stars Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Sarah Shahi, Viola Davis, Pierce Brosnan, Noah Centineo, Aldis Hodge, and Quintessa Swindell. We have a quick IMDb summary here. It says nearly 5,000 years after he was bestowed with the almighty powers of the Egyptian gods and imprisoned just as quickly, Black Adam is freed from his earthly tomb, ready to unleash his unique form of justice on the modern world.
Yeah.
And so I feel like all the trailers we saw were very true to the movie. Like, it didn't fool me at all. It didn't try to fool you in any way whatsoever. It's like, this is the movie you're getting.
Yeah.
This is a dude who deals justice his way, and there are these other superheroes that are going to get in his way. That's plentiful. The movie is nonstop action from the word go, almost. While its structure is super weird, I thought it was just like a barrage of fun. I mean, I had a smile on my face, and I had lots of laughs. I felt like I was amongst the only person sometimes in the theater. It was a screening, just mind you that, so it was a small room.
Full of critics, which I think maybe that might influence their response to things.
When we got in the elevator, there were so many people who got in the elevator that it took a long time for the doors to close, that the elevator was like, eh. And this one critic said, wow, that's slightly less annoying than that movie was. I was like, damn.
Burn.
I enjoyed it. What are you talking about, guy? I actually enjoyed this movie and I would recommend it, but you have to check your brain at the door.
Yeah, hard to check your brain at the door. But it was fun. I had fun as well. And I think for me, it was the side characters, the supporting characters that made it a lot more fun. There were definitely laughs, really great comic relief from Noah Centineo as Atom Smasher. There were a lot of laughs, a lot of action. It definitely got skadooshi.
Yeah, there was some unexpectedly beautiful moments in the movie, though, particularly from Quintessa Swindell's character, Maxine Hunkel. And so she's got like the wind power.
The wind power, yeah.
Whatever that is. And I wasn't expecting much at first appearance. Like when they announced her in the movie, I was like, okay, they throw a lot of superheroes at you at once in this film. And you're just like, okay, all these are new faces, new names.
Yeah.
What does this mean to me? And by the end of the adventure, you're like, oh, okay, cool. Like, you're actually on board with all of these people. And that's really important because there have been plenty of films where you just get a barrage of new superheroes, both from DC and Marvel, where you get a lot of new faces, new powers. By the end of it, you're like, why should I care about any of this? And I actually liked everybody by the end of this movie. So to me, that's a big, big thumbs up in my book.
Yeah, and like in terms of the beauty that you were talking about, was that more of like the cool slow-mo and like
oh my
VFX
God, there was way
stuff?
too much slow-mo in this movie. I just realized that.
There was a lot of slow-mo,
Yeah.
but it was really pretty.
I mean, it definitely felt like it was taking a page out of Zack Snyder's book.
It took a page out of Zack Snyder's book, but it didn't go all the way Zack Snyder, if you know what I mean.
It was Zack Snyder light. But yeah, Quintessa Swindell's Maxine Hunkel has this like beautiful, psychedelic, colorful wind thing that she does.
Yeah.
And every time it happened, I mean, you need to be watching this on a really nice theater. But like every time it happened, I was like, this must be what mushrooms feel like, because it was so gorgeous to watch.
And I mean, speaking of gorgeous as well, I thought the costumes were really nicely done. Hawkman, we saw from the trailers already, but he looked super cool. Just like the look of everything, I thought was really, really nice. Dr. Fate as well.
There were some jokes from Hawkman or Carter Hall that I was just like, these jokes aren't landing too well. I was gonna see in my mind, because I was like spent years watching Marvel go for ha-has really, really hard. For me, it's like I could feel the influence of Marvel on this. I don't know if Black Adam has always been a funny franchise in the comics. Shazam is certainly funny.
Well, that's what I was kind of feeling. I was feeling it was a little bit more in line with Shazam, maybe, than Marvel.
For me, it's the same.
Sure.
It's one of the same. All the beats in this movie where it's like, oh, that definitely feels like a Marvel beat. And I don't mind that. I'm a Marvel fan, but it felt like it definitely had more edge than Marvel. Marvel's only starting to come into its own with like the more adult natured stuff. But here it was like from the word go, when you see Black Adam, it's PG-13, but violent.
It's like they went, let's see how far we can push this PG-13, because some of the stuff that he was doing, if you added a little blood, it would have been downright horrific. Like blood and different sound effects, it would have just been like, oh my God. And even for me, sometimes I was like, I can't believe they just did that. I can't believe Black Adam just did that. I think it makes sense for his character because he's supposed to be that guy who's kind of like in the gray area, you know?
Well, that PG-13 is such a weird line. We actually should have another rating that goes in between PG-13 and R.
PG-13 plus.
Or PG-15 or something. Like, we really should, but because if you go back to watch Indiana Jones, the very first one, Raiders of the Lost Ark, the ending is actually very violent. Even the second one, Temple of Doom, there's some really violent stuff in that movie and people don't realize it. But it's still rated PG or PG-13. So I felt like this was no more violent than that. It was just that there was more of it.
And speaking to that PG-13 rating, as I was watching it, I did think this would be cool to bring your kind of bigger kids too.
Yes.
Not your littles, but like your bigger ones.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, it just depends on how much exposure to violence your kids are getting these days. Speaking of which, that word actually cued me to some funny dialogue in the movie. You know, The Rock, for the most part, is this very dry, one-note sort of character on purpose. He's deliberately like that. And I think that actually played very well to his strength in this movie. I thought it was a little bit odd that he didn't have an accent and everybody else did. And I just chucked that up to, well, it's The Rock.
It's The Rock.
You know, it's like, what do you want him to do? And there was some funky CGI with his past self. I'm not going to get into the details of that, but just know that at some point there will be like weird CGI on him. We didn't even talk about Pierce Brosnan at all. Like, he was fantastic in this film.
He's always fantastic, but yes, he was very fantastic in this film.
For me, you know, he was kind of like a combo of Doctor Strange and Iron Man in the coolest way possible. He's like Doctor Strange and Iron Man, but with, of course, the flair of James Bond. Like, and what more could you ask for than that? He was probably my favorite character in the movie.
He's so cool.
There's a kid in the movie who's like one of the main characters of the film. It definitely gives you that sort of Hawkeye vibes. Now, I know that Black Adam had probably been in development for a while, and there's no correlation whatsoever, but if you'd watched Hawkeye, then it sort of gives you that same sort of feeling in terms of what his character brings to the table.
Well, I thought that having his character be there made it definitely more palatable for a younger audience. In much the same way as Shazam was fun and it felt like it was geared well towards a younger demographic, this felt similar to me because we're kind of looking at Black Adam through this character's eyes.
The moment Black Adam shows up, it's nonstop action, and then I'd say around the 90-minute mark, it starts to get really predictable about what's going to happen next. I was getting a little bit annoyed with the movie because I'm like, I know what you're doing, and I'm not able to feel as connected to... I'm trying to keep it as vague as possible. I'm not as able to be as connected to the emotions of the film, the emotional value of the film at that moment, because I know where this is headed.
Yeah.
This is a very obvious play in terms of the movie. You were telling your hand like 45 minutes ago, and now you're playing it exactly how I thought you'd play it. Now, I'm someone who watches tons and tons of movies, so maybe it was easy for me to spot something like that, but I felt like you probably saw it too coming.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I knew it was going to happen. I might have had like a micro snooze while I waited for it to happen. Is that mean? I'm sorry, I didn't mean it to be mean.
You weren't the only one in the theater who had a micro snooze. Someone else did as well, and I don't want to say who until that person makes that information public. I think my one other major complaint with the movie was how much CGI was used. I mean, it can't be helped, because some of the things they're doing is impossible, right? And some of the things they're doing is very much like the third act of Man of Steel. It's just like punch explosion, buildings demolished, people in peril. But the thing about it is it was leaning in, because you were sort of complaining about that off camera.
Yes, and I wasn't sure if I was going to get into it here. I think I'll save that for our spoiler talk.
But just like to give a hint about your feelings, like you were just kind of taken aback at how much destruction there was.
Yeah, I was like, holy crap. Yeah. There is a lot of destruction and devastation, and I feel like there are no repercussions for what just happened.
Okay, so for me, because of the tone of the movie, I took it like the way I would take an episode of Power Rangers.
Right.
So I didn't mind it. I mind it in a movie like Man of Steel, where it's just very dark and just gray and sad, and there's so much destruction, and it's going on forever. Whereas here, it was like, you know, it was fun. Like, you know what I mean? So it's a different feeling. I'm not really thinking about the peril that people are in. It's not stressing me out at all. I'm just thinking about what's going on with these gods.
I think it's just because they were going for this theme of emancipation, right? Like freedom, emancipation from slavery and all that. And then it's like lots of destruction. And I was like, oh my God, what's going on?
Okay, for reals, is the last complaint I'm going to voice in this non-spoiler is that it's like there's this very, very strong overtone of colonialism. And I'm like, dang, heavy heavy-handed. Like, golly, it's so heavy-handed in
I
this
was
movie.
like, I love when I can figure out a theme, but I feel like this was very clear.
The theme was just like all over your face. It was like a pie. I get it, but it's like, I think it was just overdone.
I thought it was interesting for them to do, but then I had some other issues. Yeah.
But overall, The Rock, he did a fantastic job with being that dude. And I think that watching the film, there was no one else better for this role than Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. I don't know anything about Black Adam, but watching the story, I'm like, yeah, that's who I would have picked for that movie as well.
Yeah, he's very well suited for this role, and I can't imagine him as any other superhero.
Overall, really enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys do too. Would love to know your feelings in the comments below. I am Jabby Kuwait. This is
ACHARA KIRK.
Peace out.